Only at Metro by T-Mobile, you can upgrade to 5G and get more savings with the lowest price on one line of unlimited 5G. Just $40, period. That's it. Taxes and fees included. Plus, more choices with the largest selection of free 5G phones from brands you love, like Samsung. Switch and save more. Only at Metro. Lowest price versus major national prepaid brands. The fraction of users greater than 35 gigabytes per month may notice reduced speeds, and Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus T-Mobile due to prioritization. Video streams and SD requires eligible port in and plan. See store for details.
Welcome to the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. Now, here's your hosts, B. Cox and the crew.
Greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. It's a perspective of the classics from a fresh point of view. We appreciate you for taking your time and lending your ears to our perspective. You could be anywhere listening to anything, but you're right here with us, so we thank you. With you today is yours truly, B. Cox, and with me, I have my guy. He is the creator and host of the Raw Sex Podcast. Y'all can catch that each and every Friday out here in these podcast streets. None other than Cousin Domo, Dominique Marks. Y'all make sure y'all are following Raw Sex Podcast on Instagram at Raw Sex Podcast and Twitter at Raw Sex Podcast 1. Again, one of the most entertaining follows on social media. His takes will either have you laughing, crying, or a combination of the two. So make sure y'all hit my man up. Great episodes. You know, we've had some great topics on there the last couple of days. Matter of fact, for those of y'all listening, make sure y'all check out his latest episode with us and Smash from Bet the House Podcast. Very entertaining episode. I would say is one of our best yet. So make sure y'all support Raw Sex Podcast. Follow IG, Twitter, all that good stuff, man. Make sure you're tapped in. Shout out to all the fans and listeners out there, guys, continuing to support the show. Guys, we got an action-packed summer coming up this year, so make sure y'all are tuned in heading into Memorial Day. Hope to have some things to line up and announce very soon. As we always say here on The Vault, our motto is hashtag open the vault, hashtag nothing but the classics, or NBTC. And today, Damo, well, I wanted to make sure that I had you on here for this. And, you know, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we had Mary J. Blige on for Share My World. Well, this was another one in particular I wanted to make sure the two of us talked about. And this was an album that during my time in college, and this artist when I was in college, really was a big part of the soundtrack of my college years. I mean, this was, I want to say, along with Jill Scott and along with Jay-Z, even some Ja Rule and 50 and Lil Jon, you could really put this into the mix of that soundtrack for my college life. So we're going to go back 20 years ago, and we're going to go back to May 7th, 2002, and the second studio album, none other than Musiq, then known as Musiq Soulchild, Juslisen, released on Def Soul Records, a part of Def Jam Recordings. Recorded between 2001 and 2002 at the same studios, most of them he did his debut, Aijuswanaseing. Larry Gold Studio, a Touch of Jazz Studios, of course, it's Jazzy Jeff's joint. Access Studios, they're all in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the Blue Room in New Jersey. A runtime of 76 minutes and 21 seconds. Producers on this, of course, a lot of the producers who produced on Aijuswanaseing, the production duos of Carvin and Ivan, Dre and Vidal. You also have production contributions by James Poyser, as well as Vikter Duplaix, Keith Pelzer, Hakeem Young, A. Jermaine Mobley, and also some writing on here by a lot of artists that you're familiar with, including Jill Scott and also Eric Roberson. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So I just want to sing, Damo. This is an album, like I know around this particular time, I think you were about to go in the Navy or soon to go into the Navy. I was in school. When it comes to the soundtrack at that particular time, during that time in the 2000s, music was definitely a big part of the soundtrack for a lot of people.
First thoughts and reflections.
So I'll go ahead and start with you, Damo. Your thoughts on Juslisen when it first came out, what you thought about it, and ever since then, what your thoughts on it in the 20 years since it's been out. What's your word?
I was ready for another music album. You know what I'm saying? It was right on time when he came with it. I think out 2002. I'm gonna say I was probably in the Navy then, or about to graduate. I think I was about to graduate. Yeah, I was about to graduate then when this junk came out. And I was surprised that it was longer than I Just Want to Listen. I thought he was going to keep it Well, I was happy that it was longer because I felt like, I was like, dang, back then we was used to long albums, not like today where they give you 10 tracks. And you're like, oh shit, all right, it's 10.
Yeah.
Oh, then it gave it 9 songs. All right, 11. Back then you getting 17, 15, 18, 21. You're like, all right. Now thinking about it now today, maybe they really didn't need to do 21 songs because you giving us about 8 trash jumps. But I was glad it was longer, and it was the same vibe. Mm-hmm. It was like a little bit more mature. Like you could see, like he been a little bit more outside on this album than compared to Aijuswanaseing.
Yeah.
So you can see he kind of experienced more in life. I was probably still working at the glass shop, so this joint was on heavy rotation. My cousins and them had this joint on heavy rotation back then.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, that joint just came out. Yeah, throw that joint in. So it was this joint, a couple of other albums they stayed going through, but this was definitely, especially my one cousin, rest in peace, he stayed with it. This was his joint. He'd be singing this whole album on the way to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man. This is, like I said, this was definitely a big part of the college soundtrack at Morgan State University during that time. When the first album came out, Aijuswanaseing, like I said, when that first single with Just Friends dropped, it was a huge smash hit. And then when he followed up with Love, and the fact that he was a Philly cat, and there was a lot of Philly dudes and girls at my place, and so they always rep Philly wherever they went. So it was a huge hit. And then this is when the time we talked about it in a lot of our shows before this, especially that time in 2000 when Neo Soul was really starting to blow up. And so he fell right into that mold. When this joint came out, this is like sophomore year at Morgan. The year is getting ready to end as we're starting to hear buzz of a new music album come out. And then like the first single drops. And that first single is Halfcrazy. Everybody's like, oh man, this joint is wow. You know what I'm saying? Like sort of like almost in the same vein of what he was doing, like you said, on Aijuswanaseing. So the album drops maybe, I say, a week or 2 weeks before the school lets out and everybody leaves. When this joint drops, it's right around finals times. So I remember being in my dorm, and I lived in Rawlings Hall, which is right below the dining hall. I could hear from a lot of different rooms, both from Rawlings and next to Rawlings was the freshman girls' dorm, Blount. You could hear a lot of people that had their windows open because then, when the weather got nice, people open up their windows and you could hear like all types of music coming from outside of the dorms. You heard a lot of this those last week walking around going to finals and getting those last classes in. And especially when it got during the late night, people were putting this on. People was trying to get those study sessions on and they was just chilling or whatever. So by the time we were all getting ready to pack up and leave, I heard a good portion of this album without ever even having it, So I think like I heard probably out of the 17 tracks that are on here, 19 tracks that are on here, I mean, not including the interlude and also the intro, I think I probably heard like 12 tracks off this joint just off of that week of being just in my dorm and walking around. But this was just another joint, again, that feeling that people had. You listen to this joint, and back then, obviously, the single was what caught people's minds, but then when you get into the beginning of the album, you sort of hear, like, that same sort of pocket, that sort of neo-soul sound, sort of like jazzy, but then it's hip-hop, and then, it's music, him and his lyrics. And the one thing I always like to say about music is that, and we know this. We know Musiq isn't like a exceptional singer. He's not going to blow you out of the water with his vocals. I mean, everybody has even said recently in the shows that he's had that they've been to Musiq shows and his vocals have fell off quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? But the one thing, even back then when he still had like, his vocal powers at his full capacity, and he could do it on some songs. But the thing what sort of gets people into Musiq is the fact that his songs are easy and relatable. You know what I mean? The lyrics aren't overcomplicated. It's not really ambiguous as far as what's happening. You know exactly what the hell he's speaking about in every single one of his songs. And then they're catchy. You know what I'm saying? The hooks are catchy. The beats have great pocket with them. The bass lines and the melodies are all just like something that people really enjoy and sort of like can either bounce to, or whether you slow dancing or you just chilling out to, is something that kind of really what I think got people into music, so to speak. But even back then, I think folks, man, they loved it. Listening to it, it sort of reminded you the reason why we all fell in love with music in the first place, and his style and the type of music that he put out. So for us, everybody's like, okay, you put out one album, now can you go back and can you do it again? Well, the answer was
one hit, because it was always in one album
wonders.
And that sophomore slump used to be real back then, like
yeah.
real. Like that sophomore, more times than not, that sophomore album was, you like, oh no.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? A dude we both talked about, we both liked his debut album, Craig David. You know what I'm saying? He was hit with that joint. He was right around the same time, dropped that first joint. That first joint was a banger, was a classic, and that second joint wasn't really hitting on nothing, you know? Like,
but it's funny you say, like, you know, him being, the songs being relatable. I watched an interview on him on the Aijuswanaseing album.
Yeah.
And he talked about how that he really, in the Aijuswanaseing album, he said he really wasn't even doing an album. He said he was just doing songs.
Right.
He said he never knew that he would make an album, or he didn't even have the contacts to make an album. He said he was just doing songs. And with the lyrics, he said he wanted the lyrics to be relatable because everybody was saying the same thing with, like, you know, because it was that neo soul time.
Yeah.
So he was like, that wasn't my lane. And he said, and I would be singing with them, and they was singers, but they all sung the same thing. So he said, I wanted my stuff to be relatable. And that's how he said that's how he came to where his lyrics are the way it is.
Yeah. And when you hear about those singles from Aijuswanaseing, like the Just Friends, and even songs like 143 and Love, like, you know, that really, it's really like the type of words you want to hear from somebody if you're speaking about those type of topics. So it's like he's singing those. And I think what sort of disarms him a little bit more is the fact that we listen to him and he's got some vocal talent, but it's not like he's like a superpower. It's almost like he's like the dude next door, you know what I'm saying? Like the dude, you know, he can sing a little bit, you know what I'm saying? He's cool as hell. So I think that's part of the reason why, like I said, we sort of fell in love with him. The production on here, obviously, Carvin Ivan, who did a great job on his first album, Dre Vidal, James Poyser, really great work on this. I think production-wise, this surpasses what he did on the first album. Production-wise, I feel like the production on this is better in many different respects. I think there are stretches on here where production is almost like they're in a groove. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, then you also get that, as you said, Damo, you get that sort of feel that he matured, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of these songs on here are a lot more mature. The topics he's speaking about really are heavy, you know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things I think with us, what kind of got us onto this. And in this joint, man, you took this on through this all the way through into the fall. And by the time that second single, Dontchange, comes out, then that's really when you're just like, man, whew, this dude, he really has come a long way, man. Because that song was huge. That was like one of those songs you talk about when they had that verses with him and Anthony Hamilton. Everybody knows, you know, Cornbread can sing much better than Musiq. But it's songs like that hit people right there.
Yep, and that's what I said. That's when I said when I announced it, you know, my girl was like, no, Anthony Hamilton. I said, nah. I said, man, for real, we could go on Aijuswanaseing, and he might be able to knock him out with about 4 or 5 songs.
Right, exactly.
I said, once them Jones came, and that's how it was.
Yeah.
Anthony Hamilton was blowing you, and you like, oh yeah. And then I think Anthony Hamilton even felt the heat, because soon as Musiq started going to them smashes, Anthony Hamilton was trying to pull some shit out. Like, what the hell are you? Oh yeah, I did this song with this person. Like, nigga, that Joe don't match what Musiq just put out.
You ain't got it, dog. You ain't got it. Yeah, man. It's like that's the thing. People cannot deny the amount of hits this dude has during his career. When you start stacking like the versus playlist up, you go just from these first couple of joints. Then you start getting into the third album with Soul Star. Then you get into the fourth joint, which is Love and Music, and then On My Radio. Like, you go into all these different joints. When you start stacking the hits up, I mean, vocal talent aside, I mean, it's kind of hard, you know what I'm saying, to see that. Like, I mean, this just sort of like reinforced the idea of what drew us into him in the first place, is the fact that he wasn't a super singer. He was not on the level of Anthony Hamilton or some of the guys that had like major vocal talent, but he had enough vocal talent, and with the production and the type of songs he was singing, it's really what got us all drew into him in the first place, man. But
highlights and lowlights.
So we'll go to highlights and lowlights, Damo. What are your highlights and lowlights from Juslisen?
Of course, you know, we got Caught Up, Halfcrazy, Time.
Oh yeah,
Time was my shit.
Yeah. Yes,
Previous Cats. Previous Cats was my shit too. Dontchange.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. One Night.
Yeah.
Like for real, it ain't really too many lowlights on this album to me, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't mother, father.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh,
that
yeah.
joke.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
real. This album one of them ones.
Yeah, it is. It definitely. Yeah, and you know what's wild, man, is that the range on this album, you know what I'm saying? That's to me, I think, was more impressive more than anything else. So you don't have anything in particular as far as like any songs you maybe could have done without, not necessarily lowlights, but something that you could have been like, you know what, I'll take this and throw this to the side somewhere.
He probably could have the remix.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, man. It's
Yeah.
I think we in agreement there.
Yeah, he could have. That's like what I just said. Like, we don't need 17 songs. He could have just knocked that 19 off, and we could have been cool.
Yeah.
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 At Metro by T-Mobile, we're giving you more savings. Get the new iPhone SE now with 5G at the lowest price in prepaid. Just $79.99 when you switch.
I post a lot, so I need a phone that keeps up with me. And thanks to the iPhone SE with 5G and advanced 4K camera, I'm snapping and sharing while my followers are smashing the like button.
Switch and get the iPhone SE for just $79.99. Only at Metro. Limited time offer, in-store only, price for 64GB model with eligible ports, $60 plan and ID. See 5G device coverage and access details at metrobytmobile.com.
Man, so my highlights, I think really when you get into that first half of the album, it's like, really, I think the first half of this album is incredible just by itself.
Yes.
When you get into after the interlude and then you get to the whole newness, and the newness sort of features Ayana and Aries, who, you know, it's almost like this is a continuation of Just Friends from the first album. You know what I'm saying? It's like we done talked about being friends. We want to hang out and chill. Now we hanging out and chilling, and we starting to get to know each other. You know what I'm saying? So this is like the type of things I'm talking about. Like, yo, everybody can relate to some shit like that. It's like how things are in the beginning of a relationship, and you digging that person and they digging you. You know what I mean? So just that relatability again. Man, caught up, man, using that sample, man, that same sample that Jay-Z used for Cashmere Thoughts, that Saved Their Souls by Hamilton Bohannon, and just that joint with that guitar and that sample, and the fact that he sort of took that, and that was sort of like a continuation from the first album of the 17 joint, you know what I'm saying, where he was talking about he met a shorty, she was 17, and he had to let her go because she was too young, and now she done come around a few years later, and she look even better now. So now he's still caught up in her, you know. But that sample though, man, whoever's idea it was, if it was you know, what Carvin and Ivan using that sample to flip that joint again and make, come on, man, it's and it's like almost like sort of what they did with Ellis Gone on the first joint, where he took a beat or sample something from a beat from a hip hop track and then made it into an R&B song, getting him to stop playing. And then with me, I love Religious, and the reason why I love Religious is because you got that opening sort of like you in church, and like he about to take you to church, like you hear that Baptist Kojic, like, you know, there's tambourines in the background, people shouting, and it's like you about to, and then they just break that joint down, man, and it's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But getting into Baby Girl produced by 88 Keys, who's another producer on this, and then Halfcrazy is just a joint that, you know, it's almost even like, shoot, that could also then be sort of like a sequel to Just Friends as well, because it's like y'all were friends, y'all took it the next step, and now things have gone to the next step, and things have turned out for the worse. So it's like it would have been better if y'all had just stayed friends, more so than anything else. But that joint was a smash, though, man. I gotta agree with you on time. Man, that joint. Man, that joint. Listen. Let me tell you something. Carvin and Ivan did their thing on this, and Musiq did his thing singing this song, bro. Like, you can't tell me you ain't listen to Time and you ain't feel nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. You can't tell me you didn't listen to that. You didn't feel nothing. I love Future as well. I love the message that was in Future. Just these things, again, it's like a topic and things that make you listen to this and be like, all right, this is the reason why I like this dude. Then when you sort of get into the second half of the album, I think things are still strong. I think it's not as strong as the first half of the album, but the highlights on here, obviously, the One Night, the Previous Cats, which is co-written by Eric Roberson along with Jermaine Mobley. And then you even hear Eric Roberson doing the background vocals in this too. Because when I listened to it, I was like, back then I didn't really know a whole lot about Eric Roberson, right? But then I'm listening to it and I'm like, yo, that was him on this joint. Like, that's wow, that's crazy. Listening to Best Friend, Don't Change is one of those songs that, like, man, you talk about some songs from an artist that you'll remember for a long, long time. Don't Change is one of those songs that will have us remembering music for years and years after he's no longer recording, bruh. Like, just the feeling of that song and the message in that song. Shoot, I'm going to tell you, this was in the final, I want to say 3 or 4 songs that we were considering for my first dance in my wedding. You know what I'm saying? So it's that type of song. That whole mother father, that feel that you sort of get, like, you can see now the whole Donny Hathaway, you know, influence down on music. Like, you can hear that influence right here on Mother Father. And then taking a song like Something, which is a song that was written by George Harrison and was done by the Beatles. I mean, that's crazy, right? That you take a song from the Beatles and they're able to reimagine something like this and do a song like Something. You know what I'm saying? So, lowlights, I mean, I gotta agree with you. The If I Woulda Do, I mean, the Girl Next Door joint from the first joint was cool. We could have done without this joint. That joint didn't need a remix. It didn't need a remix at all. But I mean, other than that, man, I don't really have a whole lot of lowlights. I mean, I think even the ones that I think I don't listen to as much or don't like as much, I don't believe they bring the album down to the point where it's like, oh no, I got to skip this joint. They should have just tossed this joint off of the album. But this album is long. That's the one thing I do have to say. It's long because I'm sitting there listening to the album this week, and I'm listening to it, and it takes me from my ride to work to my ride back home from work, and I still got songs left over that I need to finish up on the album. So if there is a complaint, maybe the album's a little bit too long, but it's like, I mean, there's not really a drop off though, you know?
That's the thing. You go back, you grab it, like, I'm still on this joint. Like,
yeah,
dang, this joint's still good too. Yeah. Okay.
That was the thing. It was just like, all right, so there's no drop off. So it's like, okay. And it's like really almost at the max to a point where you could have music on a CD, like 76 minutes. Like, bro, that's almost at the max where you can have songs on a CD. You know, CDs can only hold about 78 minutes or so of music. And after that, it's like, all right, you almost in double album territory. But nah, I love the production on this joint. The highlights on here to me, the depth of the different songs on here. To have a song like Newness and go from a song like Newness to Religion to Previous Cats or Time, and then having a song like Dontchange, it's like you get that variety. You get a little bit of slow stuff, but then you got some songs that are upbeat, that are some bops. And it ain't no really club joints on here, but Musiq don't really make club music. What he makes is music, but he makes music that you can vibe to. And so I think a lot of people, and for a certain audience, that's really more important than club music. Now, before we get into this verdict, we've done a review for Aijuswanaseing 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago. We've done this joint, Just Listen. Now, the third album that he came out with was Soul Star. You know, that came out the very next year. He dropped these 3 straight albums and also had songs that all had hits on them. So my question to you really is his 3-album run from Aijuswanaseing, Just Listen, and Soul Star not talked about enough?
It's not talked about enough, and it's probably not talked about enough because, like you said, he's not really known for his singing. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm like, oh yeah, you know he can blow, and he come out. Oh, you remember them first 3 albums? You know he would, and that's probably the main reason why they're not talked about until you go listen to them. When you go listen to them, like, oh shit. You can put all 3 of them on back to back to back to back, and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Or you can just put them on a shuffle and not even be missing the part. Like, hold on, which album is this one on?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. You know, I do that from time to time too, because I'll hear some songs like, it's like when you listen to Aijuswanaseing, you got the Loves, you got the 143s, you have the Just, you know, the Just Friends. You have those songs like that, all right. But then you get into the second joint with Halfcrazy and Dontchange and Time. But then you get to the third album and then you have like Who Knows and then For the Night. And For the Night is something that they still blast on 96.3 nowadays. Like they hear that all the time. That to me, I think might be in the running probably for his biggest commercial hit. And because of the way that makes people feel as well. But I don't think it gets talked about enough in the same vein of what you said, Damo, he's not a super Saiyan singer. You know what I mean? His vocals are not going to blow you away. He can flex a little bit, but it's not a whole lot. But what he is he's, I guess, as some people like to say, annoyingly consistent. So throughout those 3 albums, what he was annoyingly consistent. And you're not going to get, like you said, super vocals, but the production on all 3 of them joints are consistent. The sound is consistent. And while he didn't blow you away vocally, he still kept that same relatability throughout those 3 albums. And you went from 2 platinum albums to an album that is, I think, now gold and on the verge of being platinum as well, now almost 20 years after the 3rd one came out. So I don't think it's talked about enough either. There's a lot of singers out there that have put out albums. We talk about those 3 album runs. And I think another part of it as well is the fact that he kind of took some time off after this joint and didn't really come out with nothing until 4 years afterwards. So I think that's another thing, is that when you step away from the scene, sort of disappear from the surface, and then you resurface again. Love and Music is okay. I don't think it's on the level of the other 3. On My Radio is okay as well, but I think that the albums after those 3 album runs aren't to the same level as the other joints. And I think that's when I guess we sort of forget about him in a certain respect. When we talk about during this particular time from 2000 to 03, he was about as hot as any other singer out there as far as his consistency was concerned.
And he showed you in that verses that, you know, once you get past his singing, he got the smashes.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And that's what I told my girl. I said, it's going to be cool. Them first 10, Anthony Hamilton going, oh, no, you forget. I said, nah, once we get past them first 10, he going to take him to the deep end. It's a wrap.
Right. Exactly.
And once he started pulling them hits out, it was a wrap. I was in there, it's like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, this it. It's over with.
Yeah. and now the thing is that what people got to understand is that Anthony, while he has some hits, he only has like maybe about 10 that we can all talk about, like 10 that we know that he came out with, not him featuring on with somebody else. We have like 10 that we could pull from those first couple of albums that we like, okay, this is Anthony's song and that's what he's known for. Music, you probably got 10 joints from the first 2 albums, and then you throw the 3rd joint in there, and then the other 2 after that, then yeah, like you said, you bring him into the deep end, he can't stay up. You know what I'm saying? He can't swim. So yeah. That's the thing. Like you said, he showed us that he has the hits, and the staying power is what is incredible for somebody, obviously, who probably isn't known among as one of the best singers out there, but he definitely has staying power, because I think it was more than just the hits. It was his personality, the production, and everything. Sort of the movement of neo soul sort of helped to push him to the forefront as well.
And that might be the other thing where the movement like fell off, to where when the last albums come out, we really wasn't on neo soul no more.
Yeah.
Like it had its run, and then that was it. And then when he came back with the music, it's like it ain't the same energy everybody on no more.
Right, yeah, because then you have that last album, Soul Star, comes out at the end of 2003. By the time we get into 04, 05, 06, things are starting to move a little bit differently. You know, Jill is not putting out music really at that time as well. By the time they all emerged on the other side of that, by the time we got to 2007 when he came out with Love and Music, things were a little bit different because we weren't really on neo soul like that no more. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I think that adds into it as well. By the time neo soul commercially, should I say, fell off, that's probably the reason why we don't regard that 3 album run as we do some other ones out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Final verdict.
So, Damo, we've talked about it. What is your final verdict for Juslisen by Musiq? Is it a certified classic, borderline classic, classic just in its time, or not a classic at all? And a rating, of course, 7 to 10. What say you?
I'm gonna go certified classic. I'm gonna go 9 for 10. I'm not gonna give it 10 for 10 because it's not. It's like a 9.5.
Yeah.
9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm gonna give it, because it's still hit to this day and still get the same vibe, same and I can still say I probably listened to this album within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's a regular, like, oh shit. I think of music like, oh shit, I haven't listened. Let me throw this joint on, even without the CDK. So it's like, you know, those the ones.
Yeah, those the ones. I'm gonna say certified classic as well. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 as well. To me, like I said, the consistency on here is great. I would say that there are songs, a majority of them, we're rating them from like 1 to 10. There's a lot of songs on here that are in that 8, 9 area, and then a couple of songs you got in the 10 area. You have a few songs, if they drop down, they're only dropping down maybe to about a 7 at that, you know what I'm saying? So it's not even like you have like a huge drop off as far as like the quality of the songs that you have. You got a lot of 8 and 9s, a couple of 10s, but then the ones that aren't as strong are just dropping down maybe to about a 7 or so. That consistency is what you're looking for when you talk about a classic album. So definitely an album that when I turned it on this week just to get a refresher for it, I was sort of transported right back to Morgan State. And I was transported back to what those times felt like. And that's what classic music does. It takes you back to the time when you first heard the album and you get those good feelings and vibes back again. So that's what I had with this. So Musiq, Just Listen. Make sure y'all go check it out. Turned 20 years old this past week. Make sure y'all listen to it. Check it out. Read some of the articles that are related to it as well. And make sure y'all go pick up that vinyl if it's available as well. And let us know what you think about it. Hit us on social media. Let us know what you think about the album, what you thought about the review. And that is going to wrap it up for another edition of The Vault. Please make sure you are checking us out on our host on the Red Circle. You can also visit us on our website, vaultclassicpod.com. That's vaultclassicpod.com. You can go there and check out the episodes. Leave us a review and a voice note, the blue microphone in the right-hand corner. In the left-hand corner, the bottom left-hand corner, you can get to our Buy Me a Coffee page where you can support the page monetarily by leaving a small donation to make sure that we can continue to open the vault for years to come. Also, make sure you're checking us out on social media at Vault Classic Pod on Instagram, at Vault Classic on Twitter, and on Facebook and YouTube. You can check us out at the Vault Classic Music Reviews Podcast. Like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, interact with us on social media. We do it here all for you. We appreciate the support, and if you have a friend, tell a friend, and make sure that that friend tells a friend. Always remember to keep your headphones on and your music loud, but not too loud. And as we close, we'd like to remind everyone to dream big, because dreams are the basis for creation. Always create, motivate, and elevate, because you were never destined or created to stay stationary in this life. And on that note, we say peace.
Thank you for listening and coming into The Vault. Please subscribe and visit us at vaultclassicpod.com. That's vaultclassicpod.com.
At Metro by T-Mobile, we're giving you more savings. Get the new iPhone SE now with 5G at the lowest price in prepaid. Just $79.99 when you switch.
I post a lot, so I need a phone that keeps up with me. And thanks to the iPhone SE with 5G and advanced 4K camera, I'm snapping and sharing while my followers are smashing the like button.
Switch and get the iPhone SE for just $79.99. Only at Metro. Limited time offer, in-store only, price for 64GB model with eligible ports, $60 plan and ID. See 5G device coverage and access details at metrobytmobile.com.